Studios, Hollywood and Florida, welcome to the Sega Star Kids Challenge.
Have you ever seen a celebrity or charity special TV show recently? I bet the majority of ones you've seen recently are just pre-established TV quiz shows, only instead of regular, normal, everyday people as the contestants, they're celebrities. Well, it wasn't always like this. During the 80s through to the mid-90s, celebrity and charity special events were very different. Often, they were specially made TV specials in which popular celebrities would compete against one another in a series of challenges in order to win money for a chosen charity. They weren't based off an established TV show IP, but were completely unique and original, and often not very good. But they pulled in huge audience numbers. I mean, think about it. All your popular celebrities who don't normally get to perform together on the same show competing in charity events. It was a huge draw in the mid-80s to 90s in both the United States and the United Kingdom. And in 1992, Sega held its own 2-hour-long charity special designed to help raise money for good causes, as well as be a huge promotional advert for their brand. This is the story of the Sega Star Kids Challenge. Before I can get talking about the show, I need to provide some context as to why this event even existed at all. After the release of the original Sonic the Hedgehog in 1991, Sega had a bit of a problem. Whilst the game had sold amazingly well worldwide, and sales of the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis had skyrocketed, resulting in Sega taking a huge portion of the home console market share away from the impenetrable giant that was Nintendo, all wasn't going quite well internally. In preparation for Sonic the Hedgehog's release and Christmas 1991, Sega had spent so much money and resources promoting both their game and systems that despite the huge commercial success, the individual departments within Sega itself were running very low on money. So they spent a huge portion of their money to try and get people to buy their system and hit title. And now following Christmas of 1991, they actually had very little cash left in their departmental budgets to keep that momentum going. And in early 1992, before the new budgets were allocated, a lot of departments were feeling the strain. Even Tom Kalinske, who was one of the main architects behind Sega's success up until this point, was facing a problem. His team wanted to target the same demographic who enjoyed TV shows like Saved by the Bell, Full House, and even Major Dad. But with only enough money to place adverts on one primetime show, he knew that Sega wouldn't reach every potential customer. And this was further complicated by the fact that different networks owned different shows, so they couldn't necessarily do a deal to run adverts over multiple shows at a low rate. So faced with these heavy restrictions, which show would they choose? Well, the answer was neither. Kalinsky's team came up with a solution. Why pay to have their adverts running on one show on one network when they could get all the stars of different shows to appear on Sega's own TV show and run adverts for Sega during the commercial breaks and within the show itself? And thus the idea of a celebrity charity event was born. Spearheaded by Al Nielsen, he approached producer Richard Rosbeck with the idea of a one-shot special, which would be filmed at Universal Studios Hollywood and Orlando resorts. The special would see young stars from primetime sitcoms compete against each other in a number of athletic challenges. Sega would finance the entire show, and in return, they would be able to do a lot of product placement and have their name feature in virtually every scene on the show. Rovsek liked the idea, and the special was green-lit. Filming would begin on April 18th, 1992, and finish the next day. The show would eventually air 2 months later in June. So with the deal done, who would take part in the event? In total, there would be 36 contestants divided by 4 teams. Alongside this would be 5 hosts and various mascot characters who would regularly pop up during the 2-hour time slot. I'm not going to name every contestant because there's 36 of them. But some of the more recognisable faces were Mario Lopez and Mark Paul Gosselaar from Saved by the Bell, Carol Ann Plant from Harry and the Hendersons, Tara Noah Smith and Zachary Ty Bryan from Home Improvement, as well as Jenna Von Oy and Joey Lawrence from Blossom. Other actors who appeared on the show represented TV shows such as The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, Major Dad, Kids Incorporated, and even some of the cast from Full House took part. The hosts included Rain Pryor, Scott Baio, and Phil Moore. The contestants were split into 4 different teams, and they all had unique names. You had the Aqua Acrobats, the Courageous Coral Crusaders, the Blazing Blue Barbarians, and the Fabulous the Purple Team. With the contestants and hosts hired and ready, what actually happened? Well, Universal Studios transformed their parks into a series of physical events for the show, and the events were as follows. The first event was the Canoe Relay Race, which was held on the Universal Miami Vice Lake. Each team would take it in turns to race from one side of the lake to the other, and then they would switch rowers until every member of every team had raced. During the race, the Sonic mascot character could be seen cheering the teams on from a small dock. The next event was held at the Orlando Resort, and it was called The Terrible Web. Teams had to navigate a series of tightened bungee cords whilst carrying a water balloon. It was a form of relay race. If the balloon was dropped or popped during the race, that team member had to exit the maze and start again from the beginning. The team with the fastest time was declared the winner. The third event was called Know the Ropes, and it took place over the Miami Vice Lake. It was a very elaborate event. It saw contestants crossing the lake on giant rubber rings using ropes, climbing a rope ladder, and even using a zip line to try and destroy a floating target in the lake itself. And there's a really surreal moment where Sonic hands the contestants a hammer that they have to strike a bell with. If you pretend that this isn't Mark Paul Gosselaar, but his Saved by the Bell counterpart Zach Morris, it's pretty funny, the idea that Zach is running up to Sonic and grabbing a hammer so he can smack a bell. The next event didn't appear to have a name, but it involved teams playing through Act 1 and Act 2 of the Green Hill Zone, getting the maximum number of points possible. The points would then be added up, and the team with the highest score would be declared the winner. After this, contestants had to undertake the Wall Challenge. It was a sloped climbing wall which had been waxed in order to make it slippery and difficult to get a grip on. As with previous events, it was a form of relay. Teams had to make it to the top, jump down, and then tag the next team member who then made the climb. The team who completed the wall in the fastest time was declared the winner. The next event was the Paris Heat Race. It was basically an obstacle course relay race split into 2 parts. They didn't really show much of this event on the show. After this, it was onto the Waiter Race. It was very similar to the previous event, only the contestants had to carry glasses of water through a series of obstacles in order to fill a jug at the end, and the team that had the most water, or who actually filled the jug in the fastest time, was declared the winner. The next event was the Alphabet Game. It involved contestants on rollerblades skating down a street to spell out a word on a grid. And then it was on to Fievel's Relay Race, which was another obstacle course relay, which took place on the Fievel's Playland based on the animated films An American Tail. So considering how big and extravagant some of the events so far had been, you would expect the final event to be a major race or some kind of giant grand obstacle course, right? Well, it wasn't. It was tug of war, and a very lame one at that. The final 2 teams were separated by a small inflatable paddling pool. Obviously, the idea was that the losing team would be pulled into the pool, only the team that was clearly about to lose just gave up, so there was no final fun soaking. All I can think is, why didn't they hold this over the Miami Vice Lake? What was really strange is that after the competition, various magazines reported that the final tug of war event was actually done over a pool of whipped cream, despite the fact it's so clearly a pool of water. Upon completion of this event, the final prizes were handed out. In 4th place was the Aqua Acrobats, who won $23,000 for their charity, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. 3rd place was the fabulous the Purple Team, who won $24,000 for the United Cerebral Palsy charity. 2nd place was the Blazing Blue Barbarians, who took $26,000 to the Easter Seals. And in 1st place was the Courageous Coral Crusaders, who took home $27,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Zach had saved the day again. As I mentioned earlier, this was designed to be a promotional event for Sega, as much as it was a charity event. So how well were Sega represented? Well, the event was named the Sega Star Kids Challenge, and the logo was everywhere. Aside from the giant signs around the Universal Studios, it was also on the clothing that the contestants wore. During commercial breaks, adverts for the Sega Genesis and other Sega games would play. When the show returned from a commercial break, an announcer would say that the show was sponsored by Sega.
Welcome back to the Sega Star Kids Challenge, being brought to you by Sega, leading the 16-bit revolution with Genesis.
And sometimes even a huge Sega logo would appear on screen. The Sonic mascot was also present, but aside from the Sonic game event, where for some reason he's wearing a rubber ring on his head, like a hat, and the final event, he's only really there as a background character. He doesn't ever really take the focus away too much. But Sonic wasn't the only mascot or character performer to appear on the show. It seems that Universal Studios were not just content with hosting the event, they wanted to promote their own brands during the show too. Right at the start of the show, behind the presenters, you can make out Sonic standing next to Charlie Chaplin, along with Laurel and Hardy and Harry from Harry and the Hendersons, as well as Frankenstein's monster. No, I didn't think I'd ever see that either. Rocky and Bullwinkle also appeared during the show, and whilst I couldn't spot him during the actual broadcast, in the Sega Visions magazine, there's a photo from the event which clearly shows Captain Crunch during the river relay race. Woody Woodpecker also makes some appearances, and in the final tug of war game, Papa Mousekewitz also appears very briefly. So other than the events, what else happened during the show? Well, between some of the games, there would be some small pre-recorded sequences involving the contestants. Most of these would be the contestants enjoying parts of Universal Studios, such as one sequence showing some of the contestants taking part in the Universal Studios stunt show. Like I said, it was an advert for Universal as much as it was Sega. Since this was a charity event, the contestants didn't get prizes for taking part, other than the checks for the chosen charities, but in terms of actual merch and prizes available, it seems that there might have been a few things. Aside from the Sega Star Kids Challenge TV shirts that the hosts and the contestants are wearing, during the round where the teams play Sonic 1, most of them are wearing Sega branded baseball caps, which have a small Sonic design stitched onto them. There are also a few press photos from the event, which suggest that some kind of physical prize was actually given away in some form. In the series of pictures, you can see the participants holding Game Gears, including this amusing one where it looks like they're screaming in terror as Sonic slowly advances towards them. So the big question, what was the lasting effect of this event? Did it have the intended event of promoting Sega better than a standard commercial run would have done? Well, according to the book Console Wars, both Tom Kalinske and Al Nielsen were very pleased when they watched the special. They seemed happy with the representation that Sega were given during the show. As for any direct impact to Sega's sales, there's utterly no way to know. But the show did have one unintended effect. It actually built a series of relationships between Sega and the celebrities who took part. In November of 1992, Sega would launch Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it would be a huge worldwide event, and Sega would get most of the participants from the Sega Star Kids Challenge to actually help launch the game. Not only did the majority of these celebrities agree, but they also managed to convince some of the other stars that they worked with to get involved, including Dustin Diamond, who was Screech in Saved by the Bell. But this is a story for next time. So that's pretty much all I can say about this very strange event. It seems that everyone who was involved in this had some kind of positive outcome. Sega and Universal got a lot of publicity, as did the stars of the various shows who got involved, and each of the charities got at least $20,000 of prize money. So what do you think about this event, and do you think they should do another one? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this one. Oh yeah, and as for the actual Sega Stars Kids Challenge, as purely an event, it did actually return the following year, sponsored by Nintendo. Do you want me to take a look at the history of this one? Let me know in the comments. See you next time. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this look at the Sega Star Kids Challenge, please click that like button. If you'd like to join the notification squad, or Badnik Army as I call them, please be sure to click the subscribe and bell notification button. The videos I produce just wouldn't be possible without the amazing support of my Patreons and Coffee donators. All my donators receive a video credit, and Patreon supporters get early access to videos, as well as other thank you perks. So if you'd like to join my supporters, please use the links in the video description. Otherwise, feel free to just share my videos and follow me on Twitter for more fun and adventures. But most of all, just thank you for taking the time out to watch and enjoy the content I produce. It really does mean the world to me. Thank you.